We got merch. That's right, for a limited amount of time, you can get in on the Iconic Episodes collection. At the link in the description at creepcast.store, we have shirts available for now, like the little frog that I found on Hunter's set, or Hunter's canon-accurate smile dog depiction, or the picture of my teeth that I will remind you is a HIPAA violation and I reluctantly consented to. All these shirts are available as a bundle or individually for a limited time, so get in on them while you can at the link in the description at creepcast.store, and above all else, enjoy the episode. And also, thank you for supporting us, or whatever.
Welcome back to Creepcast! Today we are reading from the Tales from the Creeps subreddit, our subreddit. We have two lovely stories that we're reading today. The first one being Breathless, and the second one being The Deer Pit.
These stories that come recommended, we have a few authors who we've read stories before who have come to the Tales from the Creeps subreddit, and they have given a ton of advice to writers, and we've been kind of in communication with them about what they ping as some of the better stories that the community really likes. One of them being Imperial Invective, friend of the show, who's recommended stories like this. And also, these are ones, a lot of the time if you scroll through Tales from the Creeps, a lot of stories will have people saying oh, I hope the boys read this, and stuff like that. So these are a couple of those. Tales from the Creeps is awesome because it's people who enjoy the show who, not to say they're just submitting stories hoping they get read, but they get to have a community of writers who can give them feedback. People enjoy reading scary stories, and every now and then a few of them do get read, and I think that's great. And so I always like covering stuff from them. But our two authors today is the author from Breathless, The Republic, and the author of Deer Pit, Verdant Voideling. Both of them post a ton in r/Creepcast and Tales from the Creeps. So they seem pretty down with the community. Obviously, they posted stories here. I'm excited to read about them.
I like the idea of reading some viewer stories. It's always been something that we've been talking about for a long time, wanting to do on the channel. So now letting the back catalog build up a bit more. At first, when we were first doing it, it was we were do we just actively start reading these right away? It's been, in my opinion, a good way of letting things build up, letting an audience actually build up there versus people just rushing to dump something out there hoping that, Yeah.
I will say, everything we've read, we have a very talented audience.
Oh, yeah.
There have been some bangers.
All good eggs so far.
Yeah, the one we read recently about the mermaid, gosh, that was good.
That was a lovely one.
I love that one so much. Yeah.
Wonderful.
The more I think about this, the more I stew on that one, the more I like it. So we got that. We also have something else cool for the audience.
Yeah, stand up and show it off here. We have a new piece of merch. You guys might remember last time he was on this set. It's the frog shirt. We'll show up some graphics as well. The frog shirt. We also have Isaiah's dental photo shirt.
Yeah, we have the which I don't know where this shirt is, but we've got a shirt of We've got a shirt that is the photo of my lips because it was inevitable. It made it onto some.
Here, go ahead. Harry's going to toss him one. Go ahead and stand back up. I'll give us a nice rundown here while you stand up and show it off. His beautiful shirt here with his dental record. You can show that off to your family and friends. Looks very nice. And, of course, we have the Smile Dog shirt. Throw us the Smile Dog.
I'm going to throw this one back.
All right. It's like we're at a basketball game.
And then the Smile Dog shirt, which these will be coming out pretty soon. I know people have been asking for some merch. We got the nice Smile Dog shirt from my lovely drawing. Yeah, there was going to be a huge cock on it, but no, they've said that probably wouldn't fly. So more new merch coming very soon. If not right now, link will be up or it will be up soon. So be looking out for some new merch coming up. Also, just want to take time and say thank you to our audio listeners over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, all that jazz. Thank you for giving us a nice rating there. It actually does help quite a bit. And of course, last but certainly not least, is our patrons who get extra content on the side. We did a vlog.
We did a haunted house walk.
Haunted house vlog. We're gonna go. We're doing like a little movie chat about the Lee Cronin's Mummy coming up.
There's a couple author interviews coming up.
Yeah, there's a couple author interviews. There's more stuff coming, and also exclusive Patreon stories that we just read that are either too short here or just something that's just little goodies for the patrons. So if you're interested in supporting the channel, please consider signing up. It does help us out a lot. All right, ready?
Ready. Let's begin with
Breathless.
I think I lost them. Surely. I ran as fast as my muscles could grant me. I crossed rivers. I trekked through the mountains. I burned my feet and hands on scalding hot sand. I ran and ran so hard my breath became fiery and aching. My eyes can only see so far, but that's good enough for me. There's no way that they could cover all of that distance. I'm certain of it. The hills have always offered refuge from the bitter, biting wind, but I seek them with a different goal. I need to rest on lush, soft grass under the only tree for miles around. There are cuts up and down my legs, some so deep I can see the stringy muscle underneath. I take my long overdue seat by the lonesome tree's trunk. Sensation drains from my overworked limbs. More hot breath escapes my lungs and scalds my tongue. Breathing was never this hard. Don't know what to do. Usually, all it took to escape were quick bursts. Before the dust even settled, I'd be long gone. This was different. It started at the valley, when the herd was at its most vulnerable. Long marches take their toll on even the hardiest beast. That long-awaited drink of water kept everyone moving. I was near the helm of the herd. My steady pace afforded me a more comfortable stride. It's always a chore to live so far from the water's edge, but the best yield of fodder grows further away. It should have been like any other march. The wind had died down, the sun wasn't as abusive, and our health was in order. The shimmering ripples signaled to the herd and invited them to dip their lips in clear, crisp sublime. That's when it happened. At that moment, our soft underbelly exposed, an ear-blistering chant booming out among calm waters. A pointed tip skewered the helm. It went down without so much as an exhale. What is with our viewers being mid-century poets? So many of them will have this, like, in a good way. I mean, this is a compliment. We'll have this flowery language and, like, because I feel like we read so many creepypastas and like no sleep stories and stuff where it's just like, I'm a guy who's scared. You know, it's like I'm just talking, I don't know what's going on. But then our audience will always be like, long in the time long ago when land was free. And
I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of they're trying to be little show ponies, and I think I think that they know that it's gonna get your jimmies all riled up.
You know, honestly, what I think it might be part of it. We read so much no sleep, right? But the whole thing of no sleep is it has to be someone posting the story. There has to be a reason it's there. So you can't be like, I'm reading this story and I don't know if we're hearing like a herder or if this is from the perspective of an animal.
I keep thinking it's the perspective of the animal.
Yeah, it sounds
that's
like a buffalo or some animal, like a gazelle or something.
Yeah,
talking.
ban!
Yeah.
Post removed.
Yeah.
Oxes can't use computers.
A gazelle from the 1800s could never type like this. Yeah. So, but it creates more room for creative writing when you don't have such tight restraints on it. So I think that's the reason that we see the potential for such better language out of Tales from the Creeps than No Sleep, because there's not such a strict parameter that someone has to be posting to Reddit. You know,
us just making an advert for our subreddit instead of
/no
sleep. Yeah, so actually, ours is actually really cool.
That's half the podcast at this point. Us dunking on No Sleep and then talking about why our stuff's better.
Don't really believe that, but we're making jokes. I want to preface that as a joke.
But the number of times we've been like, banned.
It's a joke.
I don't know about that.
A joke. I want to have an audible record that it's a joke.
Let's remember that. Whose story was it? One incredible story we read. It was the one. Gosh, I feel like we did it.
Creature stuck in the basement.
No, not that one. Not that one. Why did you bring that one up?
Because it's bad.
Oh well, yeah.
Monster Hunter, huh?
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, obviously, but that's not the one I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the one about the guy who his family was being turned into aliens or something like that. It ends with him in his room and he can hear them on the other side of the door and he sees his dad's mouth. And that guy in the comments was like this. He posted it to our Creepcast before Tales from the Creeps. And he said, thanks for all the support here. It got banned from No Sleep because not enough happened.
We should ban it.
It's like, what do you... Yeah, we should have got rid of it.
We should remove the post. What the fuck even happened to
But
this?
I mean, rules like that's insane.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's also I think it's all dependent on the mod.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sure it is. Yeah. But that being said, I think that's why we see such potential for writing ability here, because this is beautiful so far, the way it's said.
Yeah.
A rain of barbs followed closely behind. Our young didn't stand a chance. All at once, the once united herd scattered like a flock of birds. We bolted in every direction. All of us, the young, the old, the disoriented, fleeing in fragments. We abandoned the herd. My group was filled with many able-bodied, but there were inklings of heavy burden among our ranks. After a long sprint into the mountains, we rested on soft pastures. The air became thick with gasps. It wasn't that unusual, for we recovered well from these short bursts. We became settled in and all fell asleep, all except me. I ruminated on the earlier events, mouths full of pointed teeth. Never fashioned those kinds of tools. Small ones would swarm, big ones would clamp down, slender ones would ambush. These things surrounded us and formed a kill circle. In quick succession, they brought down their instruments and bashed in the unfortunate skulls. Even though they sparked a new sensation in all of us that day, I was certain we'd never see them again in the mountains. I was ready to fall asleep, the exhaustion of running finally catching up to me. As I closed my eyes, snap! It waves through us. Those not quick enough to get to their feet were dealt with. I bolted with the others, but as I turned my head, there I saw were the horrible beings. They stood on top of felled elders. An icy pike pierced through me, and the sensation became reinforced. That became our new norm. I am not ashamed to admit I was the last one left. I don't feel guilty for being the fastest, the most endured, or the most agile. It's not my fault the others fell because we all had a chance. It's not my fault that I never looked back. I'm not responsible for their failings. Every time they caught up to me, I pushed my body to its limits. Still, they closed the distance, and I would try to create a gap between. They never failed to trail close behind me. When I rested, they kept moving. When I ate, they grew closer. When I needed to heed the call of nature, they wouldn't be far behind. Time and time again, they took advantage of my exhaustion and stalked me intently. Every close call left me scarred. Every near-fatal encounter bled me of my energy. Once, they nearly caught me. My legs were shaking, my eyes a blurry haze, and saliva was pouring out of my mouth. One of the monsters brought a cold, sharp stone to my throat. I squirmed my way out, but it cost me my shoulder. My trot became a hobble, and even that grew into a limp. You must understand. I'm not supposed to feel this way. I'm not supposed to keep using my last resorts. I'm not supposed to feel my heart pump so hard that my whole chest groans in pain. I'm not supposed to keep looking over my shoulder, worried that something is ready to lunge out and end me. I'm not supposed to feel anxiety. Yet I do. It's so wrong. No matter how hard I try, no matter how fast I run, no matter how fierce my will to live became, I couldn't escape the slow death. Till now. I'm set by a weathered and lonely tree atop a tall hill. I can't smile, but I felt relieved and fulfilled at my efforts. I can't see them. No matter how hard I strained my eyes, nothing. I'm free. The sky must have felt reprieve, for in that moment I saw a gathering of black clouds in the horizon. I would finally feel their gentle touch and their soothing rain as it lulled me to a well-deserved sleep. Funny, as the clouds closed in on me, I could have sworn their thunder sounded like heavy footsteps. This is pretty good. It's just like an animal running, being hunted by people.
It's kind of weird though. You could kind of interpret it in you could interpret it in a way that it's another human being or something, if you wanted to. I mean, I believe. The trot and all that kind of stuff. But still, you have a fun. There's a fun way to decipher it that it could be human. But I mean, yeah, coming from the perspective of an animal with unrelentless humans hunting them. I mean, there was even lines of it being like riding the elders, which means like horses or So they were using other animals to hunt them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty fun. But I do like this idea that it's pretty open, but it's a fun. I guess a game of cat and mouse with humans and like just from the perspective of
the hunted animal.
Yeah. Which I think was pretty fun. Yeah, but I think it's just nice.
Yeah, and there's a description of like they're all at the watering hole, and then there's a cluster. They don't know where to run. Everyone fragments out and stuff like that. How terrifying that would be from that perspective. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What year did you depict this? I depicted it like a 1800s kind of vibe.
Well, they talk about
bow and arrow.
Yeah, not rifle hunting.
Yeah, it's like bow and arrow.
So you could go even further back. Say it's like 1700s or something.
1500s.
Like that. They wouldn't
1400s.
I don't think they were doing. Well, I mean, they had the longbow back then in Europe, but
1300s.
Okay. We could just keep going if you want.
1200s.
It's like the Price is Right.
1100s, 1000s, 900, 800.
The thing about I'm never supposed to feel anxiety or like terror behind me. Maybe it's like a predatory animal of some kind, something that hunts others. Maybe it's something mighty. It's not like a bison, I think. Bison's a good one because it's like, what would they have to fear naturally other than man, right? Maybe that's what it meant by I'm not supposed to feel fear. I'm not supposed to feel anxiety, stuff like that. There's a lot with just the language that's used. There's a lot you could glean on or make different.
Just even the story from the perspective of an animal is just fun.
Yeah.
A fun approach.
Yeah, very, Mother Horse Eyes, the cat segments.
I do think that it is funny thinking that a bison's on like a Mac typing this story.
Took him a long time.
Has tiny glasses and he's like pushes it up.
You ever seen a bison before?
Yeah, they're huge. Mm-hmm. They're awesome.
Yeah.
They're very
cool.
cute. And they do.
Yeah.
I like them. And their tiny eyes.
Yeah, very small eyes proportionate to how huge
I love it.
their
They're
head
so
is.
big, and they like sit there, and you like drive by them. People are always like, "Whoa!" They always just look at you like.
I remember I went to it was like this old reenactment camp, and they had a bison there that had been like raised from a baby by people, so it was real friendly. And the lady was trying to explain to us like, this is Tom the bison or whatever, and it comes up to her real slow, and it gets behind her, and it just like its head is her entire body size, right? And it keeps pushing her, like trying to gently nuzzle her, but every time it does, it like knocks her on the ground. Yeah. And then she's like, he really likes to be pet, and she'll pet on him a little. And the moment she stops, he's like, moo, and just topples her over again, just by like moving his head a little bit. So they're very sweet.
If you had a bison, what would you name it?
It's got to start with a B, right? So
that's not true. That one was named Tom.
Well, I was just kind of making up a name, but
I
like Bobby. Bobby the bison.
Bobby the bison?
Mm-hmm. What would you name a bison?
With how bisons look, I'd name Meatloaf.
Aw, that's a cute name for a bison. I like that.
Meatloaf. 1300.
All right. So that was our story. Again,
1400s.
the author of that story is named The Republic. They've posted a lot to like Tales from the Creeps. So be sure to check out more of the stuff. We'll have them linked in the description.
You know, been kind of a fun angle of that story too. It was the angle from the bird watching it all go down, huh? Just potential. Hey, Republic sequel bait that you can have that one for free. First line. I'm a cardinal and I just witnessed something bad.
Sounds Catholic.
Yeah, I watched Father Mulcahy touch a child.
It feels like, have you seen in like...
I'm a cardinal.
I see what the joke, okay. Have you seen those posts on Instagram or like in the comments where someone will say something and someone else pretends like they were there? That keeps going.
What do you mean?
Like a classic, like a girl will post a hot pic of herself and someone will comment and be like, I just fell to my knees.
Like?
Someone will comment and say, I just fell to my knees in Walmart. And someone else will come and be like, I just watched a guy fall to his knees in Walmart.
Oh,
someone else will be like, I'm on the security camera at Walmart and someone fall. Yeah, they'll do that. I saw one the other day where these guys, contractors were talking about like messed up stuff they did in people's houses. Some girl posted, it was like, we hired a group of guys to redo our drywall. And then someone knocked a hole in the drywall and it was full of McUltra cans, like in the wall. And someone else replied, it was like, I did this house a while back and we got hammered and we just threw the McUltra cans into the wall. And someone else was like, I worked at McUltra and I sold, they keep the joke going. You could do that with this, where it's like from the Cardinals' perspective, from the horse's perspective, from like another bison's perspective, who just watch the whole thing go down. Just keep.
But on the
going.
third installment, I would go bison, cardinal, and then I would go, I'd go little boy.
Little boy? Why is that?
Because then you get the perspective of man, but the innocence of man.
Right. That's deep, man. That's cool. And then God could be your fourth one. It's like God watching.
What do you think God looks like?
Man.
Man?
Because the Bible says we're made in the image of God.
I like to think that God, I think he fibbed about that. I think that was a fib. Right there. I look like you. I think he looks like a fucking sick storm cloud.
I mean, he's capable of anything, so...
He speaks nothing but Spanish. That's how...
Okay, when Moses goes to...
I'm Arik.
All right.
I'm Arik.
When Moses goes to the mountaintop...
Who's Moses?
God speaks to him through the thunderstorm, through the lightning. And then Elijah, when he goes to Mount Horeb, he is spoken to eventually through a still small voice, but it says before there's like lightning and thunder and fire. So God can appear as whatever he wants. The burning bush speaks through the burning bush.
¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? That's what God did. When Moses gathered up all his animals, and he
That's
did,
Noah. That's Noah.
Moses he did the ark.
That's Noah. Noah's Ark.
Noah's ark. What did Moses do?
He was the one who led the Israelites out of Egypt and then wandered through the desert, 10 Commandments, all that.
Oh, he did the 10 Commandments? Kind of a buzzkill. It's like Martin Luther hammering those laws.
You consider Martin Luther a buzzkill?
Kind of. Right? Or no, he was just like, actually, these rules suck.
I was thinking Martin Luther King. I thought you were saying MLK was a buzzkill. I'm like, it's a crazy thing to say.
His name's Martin Luther, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had the other day, I was like, I feel like that's not correct.
No, it's Martin Luther. 95.
He was fucked up. I suggested his name was Derek Luther, and I'm like, "There's no way
His name was not Derek. No,
Luther.
No, not.
I, Derek Luther, don't agree with these rules.
No, Martin Luther. 95 theses on the church door. Yeah.
You know what was pissed me off about that? Why couldn't you just make it 100? 95, really? Couldn't add 5 more in?
Oh, that's true.
I mean, just an even 100. I mean, how many is it? It looks like 100. You couldn't be more wrong. It's 95.
I haven't read all of them, but I wonder what the last 10 are. It's like how nitpicky could he get?
Let me see.
This is a fun aside. Creepcast reviews of Martin Luther's 95 theses.
So it just in bold. It says 67 through 95. He says he attacks the pardoners who promote indulgences over the gospel, arguing that money should be given to the poor rather than buying indulgences. Basically, it's him just being like, why the fuck? Why do we have a gold door?
Well, indulgences were specifically payments that you could make for prayers to get people out of purgatory and into heaven.
Oh, the heaven bonds, whatever.
Yeah. Which was a big no-no and historically a bunch of people freak out about that time. It was kind of during some bad stuff going on in Europe and whatnot.
Like what?
That was 1495.
The Red Scare.
No.
It's it happens with my wife every month.
Okay. So there was
we can get back to the story.
So not on the original schedule, but we wanted this episode to be a bit longer for you all. And we found an author we really liked from an episode about a radio that may not be up yet. I'm not sure when all of these were batch recording will get posted. But this story is also about animals, and we thought this was the perfect place to slot it in at. So hopefully you like it. It's called The Animals on My Farm Always Kill Their Newborns. This is one of 2 stories, as far as I can see, ever posted by the Reddit user GretelCat to r/NoSleep. And the other story they did was phenomenal.
No, it was really good.
Yeah,
That's
really
why
liked it a lot.
We saw the title after we read that one on a previous day, and then we thought we should just put this in with the animal episode because it's...
Yeah, I mean, it's like they've had 2 stories. One was a banger. We're like, we should read the animal one. And then we were talking about this episode, and it's like, oh, this could use another one. I know the perfect animal story to add.
Well, it's just a great title, too.
I mean, yeah. It adds intrigue and stuff like that. And I don't know if the radio one's up, yes or not, but we really liked it. I imagine you all would like it, too. So
a good one.
I'm excited to see what else they have in store.
Yeah, I mean, let's fucking dive in.
So, another creepy animal story. Animals on My Farm Always Kill Their Newborns by GretelCat. Link in the description, of course. Before I take my life tonight, I need to write down what brought me to this point. All right, well, some of them got to build up, some of them just jump right in. Just for my own sanity, just as a catharsis. If I'm feeling brave, I'll post it on the internet when I'm done. And if I'm actually talking to some human soul out there, know that I am at eternal peace as you read this. My favorite animal on my fiance's farm was Sausage. She was an enormous hog who might have been intimidating if she wasn't so lovey-dovey. Sausage acted like a dog whenever I came around. Always wanted to be scratched behind the ears and made little grunts and snorts if I wasn't giving her enough attention. In fact, she was the one who sold me on the whole farm thing. It was scary for me to move in with Anthony and his sheep, goats, chickens, turkeys, pigs, donkey, and cats. Before that, I had owned a total of 2 fish and a hermit crab. Do you guys have pigs?
No, I don't have any pigs.
Okay. Have you ever been around pigs and stuff like that?
Oh yeah,
they're fun. They're like chill.
Okay, they're dicks.
You don't like them?
It's not that I don't like them. They're just assholes. They're just messy dickheads. They can be very aggressive and dickheadish. Yeah.
You know the whole thing
They're
about
so smart, and they're just like fucking rolling around the mud and just like screeching.
Young pigs can be really mean.
Boars mostly, but yeah.
Have you ever? You've heard the thing about like you can throw a dead body to pigs and they'll like clean it super fast, eat pieces of it and stuff. Yeah, they can be mean. But I was in love with him, and he was in love with me, even in spite of all my anxieties and manias and foibles. I took a leap of faith, moving on to his 40-acre Midwest ranch a few months before the wedding. His father had raised him here, but had passed away a year before we met. After only a few days, I stopped nagging him about selling the property and moving closer to a city. Just a few days. That's how long it took for Sweet Sausage to teach me that farm animals were not pets, but like judgmental of you, as I'd originally told Tony. She was smart and affectionate. She was my friend. It didn't take long before I developed similar sentiments towards the rest of my new family. Sausage was pregnant when I moved in, and she was due to give birth just 1 week after Anthony and I returned from our honeymoon. Though I was on the verge of having a panic attack the whole time, I was there from start to finish delivering all 4 piglets. They seemed healthy, and I was overwhelmingly proud of myself. The following day, he brought over the 2 little boys who lived across the street, as was tradition, to name the newbies. The runt was, not so creatively, christened Pee-wee. For a few days, everything went well. The new piglets required a lot of care, but were super cute. Besides, I was confident that between Sausage's nurturing disposition and Tony's expertise, they could make up for whatever I messed up. The piglets were only a few days old when everything happened. After the chores were done for the day, Tony and I fell asleep holding each other like the happy newlyweds we were. I hadn't been out for long when a deafening squeal shattered my sleep. I spasmed away from Tony and whipped my head towards the window. I can't even describe the feeling that swelled in my chest at that noise. It was shrill, desperate, horrified. The 2 of us flew downstairs and across the field to the pig pen. By the time we had reached the front door, the squeal tapered off like a stereo being unplugged. With just the light of the moon to guide us, I didn't make out what was happening until we were a few steps from the pen. God, I'm in tears remembering this. Poor Pee-wee. His little body was just destroyed. It looked like he had been banged against a wall repeatedly. His legs were dislocated, his body swelling with bruises, his tiny nose twitching as though it were the first step to being able to move again. But he would never move again. His glassy little eyes rolled towards us as we burst through the gate, and there was Sausage, calm as ever, looming over her newborn. Mechanically, almost gently, she gathered Pee-wee by his scruff and jerked back her head.
No, Sausage, no!
I shouted. I was about to lunge at her, but Tony grabbed my arm. I made a hysterical whimper as the pig slammed its snout into the ground with Pee-wee in her mouth. The ensuing crunchy noise almost brought me to my knees. Tony whispered,
"It's over, Wanda. He's gone."
He was right. Pee-wee was probably dead the instant he made contact with the dirt. I wasn't sure how many times Sausage had smashed him into the ground like this before we arrived, but I understood why Tony had held me back. If I had stopped her just then, we would have been responsible for a mercy killing. The most humane thing was to let nature take its course. What the hell was natural about any of this? Have you ever witnessed like an animal just do something really messed up?
I mean, like, one thing that was brutal was living on this farm and stuff. It's like coyotes and possums killing all the. I mean, my favorite farm animals are donkeys and ducks. I love them. And yeah, we've had like, before we had a lot of like fortified stuff. We've had to like reconfigure how just to approach like how to keep the ducks super safe and stuff from the best you can. I mean, shit's gonna happen, but coyotes are ruthless, man.
Yeah.
Coyotes are fucking ruthless. Possums are ruthless, but it's mostly coyotes just will tear the shit up, and you kind of come out and it's just a massacre. And it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, we most of the people around home, like if they get a coyote, it's like, all right, everyone, bring the guns. Like,
yeah, I just and I'm the worst with it. My wife is way better. My wife and her boyfriend really handle it. No, I just
they let you play the Switch.
I can't. I've never been good with like killing animals. Like even like my dad taking me on hunting trips, all that shit. I just can't do it. I just even when like it's just I just fucking can't. Yeah. So it tears my fucking heart open.
I remember one time. I remember being a kid. You know when you're a kid and you see like your dad or like an adult do something, you're like, wow. He's cool. One of the first moments I had that with my dad is when I was 5 or 6 years old. We had found a kitten. We lived like middle of nowhere, Kentucky, way out in the woods. One night, a little kitten showed up, and like we were like, "Oh, Mom, can we keep it?" Blah blah blah. And I think we named it Kitty because I was the oldest at 5. So like my 4 and 2-year-old sisters were like, "Kitty's perfect." So we would feed it milk and we would like hand it little pieces of ham and stuff like that. And we had it 2 days. And I was like, it's the cutest thing ever, blah, blah. And we were outside with it one night. And we were on the back porch. And it was it was in the morning. It was kind of like wobbling around, looking, and it sniffed and it went under the porch. We had a little wooden porch. And then we heard it scream. And I was like, oh, what's that? And my mom hurried us inside. And what happened is it got down there and a possum was down there and just shredded it.
Oh, yeah.
Just immediately killed it. Mm-hmm. And I remember being like so heartbroken about that. Like, oh, little kitty. Like I still remember seeing the wood porch and seeing blood up the side of it. And my dad was like, never again. So that night he got a bunch of leftovers and trash. And he went out, we had this huge open backyard and he just laid leftovers all out in the yard. He got up on the second story of the house with a shotgun. And he sat in that window. And I remember laying down in bed that night and all night just, boom! 20 minutes. Boom! His dad sat up all night and just killed anything that came into the yard. The next day, he had killed 11 possum
garbage
and 4 raccoon.
Garbage men coming up picking up stuff.
But I remember after that being like, wow, my dad really loves me.
Killed all the wildlife in the neighborhood.
Just obliterated them.
He loves me.
Dad's like, you'll never hurt Kitty again. But no, animals do some weird stuff. I remember we were, a guy had asked us to come shoot prairie dog because they were like getting all of the animals sick and destroying farmland. We had shot one, and then another prairie dog had come out of the hole and dragged it back down into the hole. And I was like, oh, that's kind of sad. You know, like their friend's dying, so they drag it in. Like, that's heartbreaking. We walk up to the hole later, they were eating it.
Oh, yeah.
The moment any of them got hurt, the others were like, it's like, okay, well, I don't feel bad anymore.
Animals are stupid. Animals are fucking dumb. They're just hungry. They want to fuck and they want to sleep. That's pretty much all they want to do.
Tony had tears in his eyes as he scooped up the 3 remaining piglets who were cowering in a corner. Meanwhile, Sausage nudged the body of her runt and, satisfied that he was thoroughly dead, meandered over to the slop tub. I watched Tony deposit the piglets in the next pen over so that a swath of fence separated them from their mother. He told me to wait inside while he buried Pee-wee. I was all cried out by the time he came upstairs. He looked more enervated than I had ever seen him, soaked in sweat and smudged with dirt. Tony sat across from me on the bed. He didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, he raised his brown eyes to mine and said,
Juanita, there's something I haven't told you.
I can count on one hand the number of times I've heard him call me by my full name. Chill ran up my spine.
What? What happened tonight, is nothing new. All of the animals on the farm kill the newborns. One by one. Unless they are separated immediately. I don't know why. I mean, honestly, there's no explanation I've ever found for this behavior. It is always happening on this farm.
He looked away. I scooted closer.
How is that possible? I don't know. I'm sorry, it's not a satisfying answer, but it's all I can tell you. But even Saucy.
I asked, invoking the nickname I'd given my favorite farm animal.
All of them, Wanda. All of them. And I know you're wondering why I didn't separate the babies right away, and it's just because I was being selfish.
Watched him clench and unclench his fist.
I didn't want to tell you this ever, and I guess I just hoped that it had been in my head all along. You know, now that Dad's gone, and you and I are starting our life together, I just thought, rather than separating them like my family had been doing for years, we should see what would happen. Maybe the curse had never existed in the first place, and I would never have been in this awful conversation with you, but look where that got us.
Tear fell onto the bed. I like that. That's a very human thing. Where, like, if your family's just been like, we gotta keep them separate, and, like, you never saw it firsthand, your dad's gone, you're like, yeah, maybe not. And then it happens, you're like, okay, well, maybe, maybe so.
Right.
For the next several days, Tony wouldn't look me in the eye. You would think it was him out there torturing Pee-wee that night. That's how ashamed he was. Seeing how profoundly this instance affected him just made me love him more. I've told him as much time and again since that day. He has never believed me. There's one, that's a very sweet thing. There was one time, I know I keep talking about animal stories.
It'd be kind of crazy, too, if they have a kid and the mom just wants to kill the
That's
neighbor.
where I feel like
it's
going.
I feel like it's going that way.
Yeah, I think that's what the tone in this is going to be. And also, at that point, what counts as not a kid anymore? How long does the mom have to be away from the kid? Or it's like, I remember one time we found mice in the garage, and I'd found a mother that was nursing a bunch of them, and I saved it. And literally everyone I knew made fun of me, but Kayla thought it was very sweet.
That's cool.
Your dad came and slammed
And then my dad came,
Okay.
boom, boom, yeah.
yeah, like Looney Tunes.
You'll never take kidding.
Daddy?
What's he doing here? 24. Daddy?
Why, you're like rustic with that.
He's getting into it, yeah.
Dad's killing rats.
They went down to Petco.
And that was the first infanticide I witnessed on Anthony's family farm. 4 years and several deaths have transpired since then. We tried to keep the animals separated, and obviously they needed to reproduce to sustain the farm, but sometimes the killings happen before we even knew the mother was giving birth. I don't want to make a laundry list because obviously these things aren't pleasant for me to relive, but one other episode that I constantly have nightmares about is Snoozers. Snoozers was a barn cat who would appear curled up, napping in random places on the farm. Sometimes we wouldn't see her for days. Tony and I had been talking about how she was getting big enough for us to assume she was pregnant, and we tried to keep an eye on her, but, you know, cats, she came and went as she pleased. We really started to get worried when we didn't see her for almost 2 weeks. That's when I was certain that she had given birth, and I feared for the lives of those helpless infant kittens. What could we do? I went on with my farm chores, having taken on more responsibility once Anthony got promoted. He was a quality assurance specialist for the USDA, and his new position meant he occasionally had to travel to conduct trainings. Mid-morning was when I got around to changing out all the food and water. As I walked over to the goat's pen, I noticed Snoozers lounging on a pile of hay.
Snoozers!
I chirped, at once thrilled and terrified. She was noticeably thinner. I didn't see the kittens. Oddly, this made me feel much better. It would have put a maddening pressure on me to rescue them, and I would spend every second until Tony came home feeling like I had to protect them with my life. I just wasn't equipped to handle something like this on my own. Honestly, I was fine pretending she had never been pregnant at all. I slipped into the pen and knelt down to pet Snoozers. A clump of orange fur stretched and did a happy cat blink as I stroked her. At the insistence of the goats, I stood up and went to give them fresh water. Now, the water was in a big, black 10-gallon tub in the corner of the pen. We changed it every few days. By day 3, the water was murky with hay, dirt, food, and whatever other yuckiness the goats had on their mouths when they went to drink. Tiny as I am, I struggled to pick it up and pitch it over the fence. I heard the water splash onto the ground, followed by 5 or 6 distinct plopping noises. I was so shocked I dropped the tub. Lying on the ground in front of me were the shriveled, soaking wet bodies of Snoozer's kittens. They were so little that their eyes had not even opened yet. Shakily, I got to my knees and stared with tearful eyes at the corpses. The most frightening part was the lack of injuries. They didn't even have the self-awareness or strength to fight for their lives. All I could imagine was Snoozers taking her kittens in her mouth one by one and systematically holding them underwater until they stopped moving. None of the food or water got switched until that evening. I spent the whole day in bed trying to get Tony on the phone. He'd be home tomorrow afternoon. Until then, he suggested, put a towel over the kittens and he would take care of them when he returned. And I wish I could say the reason I'm writing now is because I'm fearing for the life of another animal. But God, it is so much worse than that. Of course, Anthony and I had a discussion about this shortly after we found out I was pregnant. Uh-oh.
What if it happens to me? What if I try to kill the baby? Wanda, sweetheart.
He said, running a hand through my hair.
I promise that's not going to happen. I was raised on this farm, remember? Our baby's going to be happy and healthy.
If you have to separate the humans, surely to God his parents would tell him that, right?
You would think, but
this
also
ain't going to be
who
a
knows?
Tommy Taffy scenario where they don't mention to
Yeah.
them for years.
Oops.
Oh, shouldn't have done that. Uh-oh.
Also, I legitimately, when they were talking about, like, heard the plops on the ground, I just picture your dad going over with the cats and just being like, and dropping them into the bucket.
My dad killed the animals to save.
My daddy
kitty.
killed them to save them, not hurt them.
Well, it's more like avenging.
There's more revenge. Well, we got kittens after that.
Oh. Okay.
So Dad was like, if we get more,
Yeah, well-
they're not gonna be around to kill them again. No, my dad would never kill an
Cat
innocent
soup.
animal. My dad would never kill an innocent animal. No.
His evil laugh. Meow.
My dad's a nice man.
Meow. Bobbing in the deal, picking him up with his mouth. Daddy? They wronged me.
Never again.
Never again.
I would do the exact same thing, 1,000,000%. If my daughter had a little kitty,
Yeah,
got
Tonka
killed by
comes
something-
up. Dad, look at this.
If Tonka comes up and her little kitty gets killed by a possum, I'm napalming the woods. Everything I can
You
kill.
have to pick up the mantle.
Immediately. Anything in that woods is dying.
Dad, where's my
the turkey, the deer, another cat, doesn't matter. It's
Dad,
all
where's my
gonna work.
hamster?
Call it an airstrike.
Yeah, I'm J-damming the property.
Like bloody eagle the possum.
It's a bit excessive, Dad. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just vengeance.
I hate myself for being too scared to point out that he was raised solely by his father. His mother, as the story goes, died during childbirth.
Sure.
Uh-oh.
Sure.
Uh-oh. But as I look back now, I wonder if that's just what he was told so he wouldn't ask questions.
No.
Tonight, I'm in the house by myself. I gave birth a week and a half ago, and all that time, I've never been alone. Anthony, my parents, our families, our neighbors have been incredibly supportive. And with all the attention and company, it's been easy to ignore the thoughts I'm terrified to be having. Thoughts of killing my child. At first, I tried to tell myself that it was psychosomatic, that I, in effect, cursed myself by believing this curse existed in the first place. Every night since JJ was born, I have lain awake reading about postpartum depression on my phone. I was dying to find something, anything validating these feelings. And of course, if you search long enough on the internet, you can convince yourself of anything. But each time I put down that phone and looked at the little lump in the crib beside me, all I could think about was how much I wanted to kill it. I don't even understand why. And that's what's devouring me from the inside out, is I can't even try to reason with myself. I haven't breathed a word of this to my husband. If he thought for a moment that leaving JJ alone with me was endangering our child's life, he might do to me what I'm convinced his father did to his mother. Besides, I love this child. What's so maddening really is the genuine maternal attachment that I have to JJ. I love him so much, I can't even put it into words, but I don't know how much longer I could fight this impulse. Even sleep doesn't give me a respite from this hell. The nightmares have gotten increasingly worse. The night before Tony left, I dreamed that the baby and I were hiding from a killer. I clutched him to my chest and ran through a dark cornfield, pausing only to catch my breath and hear the telltale rustle of the murderer. Finally, I found my way out of the field. A small farmhouse was in sight. I ran as fast as I could to safety and locked the door. I sat on the sofa with JJ in my arms until I calmed down. Then I placed him on the table in front of me, took off his clothes, and began peeling away his skin. He didn't make a sound, just stared at me with omniscient eyes. When I tore off a slice of skin, I placed it in a neat pile on either side of him. One by one, I exposed his organs until all that was left of his skin was the patch between his eyeballs. We stared at each other until they rolled back into his head. I woke up then. I darted to the bathroom and vomited before Tony could ask me what was wrong. I called through the door that I had food poisoning or something and showered for an hour and a half until my heart rate slowed back to normal. It's nighttime. I put JJ down after I finished dinner and went to watch some TV, trying to take my mind off the thoughts I was having. The last thing I remember is feeling like I was nodding off, but not quite falling asleep. Just now, just 20 minutes ago, I woke up, came to. I just suddenly realized that I was halfway upstairs with a kitchen knife in my hand. I screamed and flung it away from me and collapsed where I was into hysterical tears. I have no control over myself anymore. God, who am I? I can hear JJ crying. He's been at it. He's been at it for a while, wailing from hunger. I haven't fed him since early this morning because I fear that if I try to feed him, I'll choke him to death before I can stop myself. Even if I did call Tony or my mother or a neighbor or the police, I know that the moment I put the phone down, I would kill JJ before anyone arrived. Writing out these truths, these thoughts, is the only thing that has kept me from taking the life of my child. I am shaking so hard now. I know I don't have much time left before I can't take it anymore. And since the instant the first murderous thought popped into my head, I have been using every mental faculty to figure out how to prevent this. And I did. Tonight I figured out how to save JJ's life. I cannot risk another blackout like I just had on the stairs. Recording all this has been glorified procrastination. Anthony, I love you. JJ, I love you. Please never forget that. And I hope you can both move on and live long, happy lives. I just have one last request before I take my life tonight. Burn this farm to the ground. That was good. That was a really good story. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
That was brutal.
I like that they didn't give you all the answers too. I think that like having a let me keep this open. I like that the keeping it vague is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But I do think I do like that it's it translates to the humans as well. It's just kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I like it. It's a very I feel like it's really Grandpa's fault because if he did kill his wife and he just did not tell his son about that this was going to happen, that's crazy. If it is a locational curse, not a family curse, just go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a weird thing where he probably did do it to help. Maybe he thought that he wouldn't come back to the farm or something. I don't know why you wouldn't tell. That is one thing you should definitely divulge.
You should disclose that to your son.
You should disclose.
Hey, if you have a kid here, your wife's going to try to kill it until you kill her. Just
all right, buddy. Have fun out there.
All right, have fun. Yeah. Hey, good game out there.
It's great though.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. That was fun. Again, very well written. It was paced just where it needed to be, right time.
I hope that they write more. 2 stories is enough.
Yeah, this was like 8 years ago, right? Yeah, 8 years ago. So they wrote 2 stories 8 and 9 years ago, and then not another story since, which is tragic, I think. So yeah, Gretel Cat, if you're out there somehow, I wish you write more of this. This also fits perfectly in the middle of those stories, because the first story was man attacking animal. Second story, man attacking man, right? And then the third story is man hunted by some other creature. So that's pretty cool. But I thought this was fantastic. We'll have Gretel Cat stuff linked in the description. But I think that was a perfect addition to this episode, and that was creepy. And the stuff about the dream with the baby, that did get me a bit. That was a lot. So
why running all the way through the house or running through all the cornfield to strip the kid's skin? Mm-hmm. Made it seem like the person that was chasing after was trying to stop her from doing
that. That's her husband, like, wait!
Yeah, exactly. Stop it! Baby JJ!
Don't kill it!
Yeah.
She's like, thank God I got away from him. Now, to kill the baby.
On to the next story?
On to the next story.
All right, well, Verdant Voidling wrote a story that a lot of people like called The Deer Pit. Uh-oh, and there's a tag on it, Isaiah. It says, Creature Feature!
Excellent. Perfect.
Guys, can we get a quick round of applause for creature features? Oh, Capri Sun.
That's your fifth one?
No, it's my fourth.
Okay. All right, The Deer Pit by Verdant Voidling. I can still remember how the steam pulsed in steady rhythm from beneath the frozen leaves. When I was a kid, I had this place I would go to on the frozen mornings of winter, a clearing that never seemed to suffer under the cruel frost of East Tennessee. Oh, baby. The clearing was set deep in the woods, far enough away from civilization that the sound of rubber tearing across tarmac bled away into abject silence. Living so close to the interstate, even in a town as small as mine, left peaceful moments as a rare commodity. Everywhere I went, I could hear the distant ribbon of passing cars rumbling towards far-off places. I treasured the clearing. The pristine silence there, so stark and thin, I felt that even a single breath might cause it to burst. It had been a balm for my soul, and its warmth the salve for my aching limbs after long days at school. 7th grade was when the cracks began to show, all starting with the disappearance of Heinrich Einsmann. Heinrich had been an exchange student from Germany, a pudgy kid with suede blonde hair and eyes the color of emeralds.
I had a German exchange student in my school when I was younger.
Really? How were they?
He was the grade below me, so I didn't know him too terribly well, but I do know that he took our German class at school, and he corrected our teacher all the time.
That had to be annoying.
I think she fucking hated it, yeah.
Was he nice otherwise, or was he just like a know-it-all?
He was like a really big kid. I think that they brought him in because he was like a big football player.
Oh.
So he came in and he's like, "Oh, that's not how you say that," that kind of thing, and she'd be like, "Thank you,
Yeah.
thanks, sit down," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't think I've ever met any other German person before in my life. Have you?
Yes.
Like a fluent German speaking person? Really, you have?
I feel like I've known people from Germany. So, I mean, especially if we count online interactions.
No,
like,
I'm talking about in person.
Yeah, we had a friend of ours at the church we went to when I was younger who would have foreign exchange students coming in all the time. And one girl that they had visit a couple times, her name was Ines, I believe. Ines. She was from Germany. And
I always feel like religious people from like Europe would have like a more radical approach.
what do you mean by that?
Just more old timey from the old country, you know?
More like conservative approach, you mean, religiously?
I don't know. I'm just being crazier.
Just because they're from Germany. It's not still old over there. If you go to Germany now, they have modern things. It's not like...
Yeah, but I would say that
Jugend,
I would hope that the
Jugend.
tradition would stay over. Like, you know, she's like, "Here, drink the blood." And it's not wine; it's fucking blood.
Oh, well, I mean, that's transubstantiation. A lot of, like, Catholics still believe that and stuff.
Trans what?
Transubstantiation.
What does that mean?
That's the belief that communion, wine, and bread become physical blood and flesh.
So they actually do drink blood?
Well, they drink wine and bread, but the idea is, like, as it is consumed, it becomes...
Oh,
wine.
it becomes a deal.
As it's digested.
Is there
it
any
becomes-
sect that actually drinks blood?
Not that I know of.
That wouldn't seem.
I mean, maybe, like, there's some weird offshoot. You're saying within Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the whole is it just Christianity or is it Catholics that do the whole?
Well, same thing. I mean, so you have the church, right? After Jesus died, follow me, and then people had different interpretations. If that's the Catholic Church, Orthodox, they split in the Great Schism, became their own thing, and then you have Protestantism, which came after Martin Luther. But then Protestants will say that, like, well, they're the actual remnant of the original Christian church, and the Catholics will say they're the original, and the Orthodox will say they're the original, several beliefs, but they all believe in Jesus Christ, and then they just have different tenets of, like, what worshiping him looks like.
Do you
if
think
it
if-
requires priests and fathers, if it's just a pastor or whatever.
So if you found out there was a sect that was like, oh, instead of drinking wine, we're drinking blood, the people would be like, I don't like that.
They're actually, so there's historical precedents that was used as part of the early criticisms against Christianity to kind of like propaganda against them, because there would be like Jesus, when he gave the Last Supper, he said, "This is my body, this is my blood, as often as you take, do in remembrance of me," as he passed the bread and the wine. So that's where, like, transubstantiation comes from. Like, it physically becomes the flesh as you consume it. But Rome, like Nero, when there was like they were trying to blame the Christians for the fires and stuff like that, this information would get passed around. Like,
In Rome?
Well, the Romans executed the Christians.
Yeah, I know,
So
because they were
started
like
to show
little, they're like little fucking gutter dwellers. They were, dude. Can you imagine seeing the Christian back in the day? You'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, like, come down here. I want to tell you something.
Well, keep in mind, this is also
This
is in a polytheistic Rome too. So this was in a Rome where animal sacrifices were common and things like that were standardized thing. And then you had this group show up who believed, aside from the polytheism, this one man who was executed at the hand of the Roman state was God made manifest as man and then died and resurrected. So it was very different than the Roman idea of worshiping Mars and Saturn and Jupiter and stuff like that.
I always thought those were sweet. I love that painting of Kronos eating Zeus.
Yeah. As opposed to that, the Christians were like, this one person who was killed is,
I don't really know about all the planets. Did they have telescopes back then?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, they had planetary bodies, yeah.
Holy shit.
Well, they didn't have telescopes. Galileo's the one who invented the telescope. They had star charts, and they could map locations. Because that's how how they would sail and stuff like that.
I bet you Galileo was insufferable.
I think you have it backwards, too. Is they named the planets after the gods, not the gods after the planets.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right, yeah. But...
Can't you see that, though? Galileo, like, trying to have a conversation with that motherfucker? Oh, my God.
Show you assorted compasses.
He's like, what do you think of this? You're like, why don't you fucking, are we going to eat duck? Or I don't know what the fuck they ate back then, but trying to eat some duck.
You can still eat duck.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, probably more common back then.
I suppose. Anyway, my point is, Rome would say things like, the Christians eat blood and flesh. Like, using that as a thing. It's like, yeah, they talk about it all the time.
They fucking did back then.
In
the gutters?
No.
In the sewers. I bet you down in the sewer
stuff.
I bet you down in the sewers those motherfuckers were drinking blood.
What do you mean sewers? What are you talking about?
Dude, they were in the sewers.
They were not in the sewers.
But I will say, look, that's what they did. Because they're being prosecuted. So like, we're going to do all of our sermons and shit in the sewers.
The church was in hiding. The church was in hiding.
The sewers.
Sure. Well, it's in people's houses.
In the sewers.
During the New Testament, you can hear Paul writing to the churches, which are in people's houses.
That's why all the Romans are like, I keep hearing all these Bible verses under my floorboards. You get it.
The amount of people who say online, I'm not a real Christian because I hang out with you is alarming.
Because I hang out with me?
Yeah, well, it's just like he sits on a podcast where like his co-host just berates him about his religion.
I'm not berating you. I'm just saying that back in the day there were some gutter fiends. There were some TMNT.
They were in hiding. Yeah, they were in hiding from the government for sure.
TMNT. Actually, once again, that's why they did in the comics. They put them in the gutters because Da Vinci, Michelangelo, all that kind of stuff.
I realize now you're talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja
Turtles.
The
TMNT. Yeah.
The propaganda about Christians eating the blood's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
As a fight against them.
I just didn't know. Catholic. I mean, I understand. I get it. I just didn't know. Because there's sects of Christianity down in the South where they hold fucking snakes up and stuff.
So those actually came in like the 1950s.
So you have that kind of, sure.
Yeah.
Wherever it came from. I'm just saying that if there was any sects that would be like, we drink blood and also we eat fucking skin.
Yeah.
Because how brutal would it be? Would that be kind of fucking sweet if the pastor's like, all right, time for the deal, and they bring up the robe up his back, and everyone just goes up and they just off his back a little bit. You know, like whenever you eat a
really cool visual.
Eat an apple with like a knife. You do like, imagine going up to like some old motherfucker's back, and he's just like, take it.
It's priest jerky.
Yeah. Well, see, that would be some like horror game shit. Like what was that? What is it? Fucking what's the Outlast? The second one where it's like the creepy.
Oh yeah, the pastor guy.
That one,
there.
Like that would be where it's like drink my blood. It's like that kind of shit.
Yeah, I would. Obviously, this would be cut if they could hear it, but I would think that if there was people that were practicing like actual cannibalism and drinking blood,
I guess it would pretty much be cannibalism.
It would probably be
illegal.
Well, it'd probably be not in the United States.
Oh. Also, you know what? If you had a pastor doing that too, it makes it seem like he probably thinks he's God.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like the woman in Silent Hill movie.
I'll tell you what, though. You can tell how a church's quality by the fucking bread or crackers they give you. When those motherfuckers give you those thin, round crackers, oh my God. I'm like, can you not go to the store and get some fucking sourdough, some sourdough, huh?
Like when they do
talking about the communion
they do the Welch's grape, whatever, and then they do the little, the thing. When they literally though, they've done that.
For children, yeah. Some of them that haven't gone through communion, they can't have the wine.
But I will say, when they put those thin crackers on your fucking mouth, I'm just like,
in all the churches I went to growing up, it's grape juice all around.
That's
'Cause
right. Yeah, I was always grape
Protestants
juice
are
for me.
real against like drinking in any regard. So
That makes sense.
so it'll be grape
I grew up
juice.
Catholic and went to Catholic school, and you did your first Holy Communion in second grade.
went
and then they let you do the grape juice first, and then at second grade immediately they were giving us wine.
I can see Catholic. I remember the one that I went to. Those motherfuckers were giving us red Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim. You went
Yeah, he went to Jim.
Well, I
Jones.
mean,
He went to
that was
Jonestown,
Rite Aid. Different, but I will say, but I was like it because I guess people complain that the Welch's taste bad, so they switched it up to, which I always appreciated that switching up the taste.
Early Christian writers such as Epiphanes and Salamis claim that certain Gnostic sects, which isn't really Christian, but they use Christianity as a starting point, engaged in immoral rituals, including the consumption of human remnants. Interesting.
You just figured there's got to be one.
Gnostics would be
right?
the one to do it. The Gnostics they believe Jesus was like a god, but there's several gods. It's kind of like a pantheism tied to Christianity. They've got some really wonky beliefs the more down you go. So I could definitely see like some auto cannibalism thing coming out of.
You kind of get this is with anybody too, but you can kind of get some, when people are getting into these church situations, you kind of see who has the kind of crazy beliefs when people kind of push it past whatever they want. They make what they want to believe. I've met some people before, like in the church systems when I was younger, I was like, he would thrive in a Puritan society, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just creepy.
For sure. I mean, it's so varied, because all that Christianity is at its core is the belief that Jesus Christ died for our sins and was resurrected as the Son of God. That is it. So any other belief that you have that adds on top of that comes later is all still Christianity. There's some people that are, in my opinion, are so heretical in what they do later that it kind of negates the title. But technically,
you would be a sweet book for us to read. I guess this is kind of a horror. Maybe because I said Puritan, we should see if we could fucking read The Crucible. You ever read The Crucible?
Yeah. Giles Corey's.
That's a fucking crazy. Also, Daniel Day-Lewis in that. Just say it. It's just your name, but it's my name. He does that whole line. It's great.
that'd be cool. I'd like.
Have you read that book?
I haven't read The Crucible. No.
It's all about a guy. I think his name's John Proctor or something.
John Proctor. Yeah.
John Proctor. He fucks this like 14-year-old girl or something like that. I mean, it's like the fucking. It's like Puritan times, whatever. It's a young chick, whatever, and he's like, hey, so actually, probably shouldn't do this anymore. You're kind of crazy. So then she says that she's a witch, and she starts blaming other women in town for being witches, and it's like all like witch trial.
Interesting.
It's very cool. It's very good. My dad! But yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis is in this. It's probably in the theaters. I always thought it was a straight-to-TV movie.
No, if Daniel Day-Lewis was in it, it had to be
Yeah.
theatrical. Yeah, no way. I've heard the movie talked about before, so I imagine.
Because I saw that one. That one came out at the same time as the other one. Was it Scarlet Letter?
Scarlet Letter, yeah.
Yeah. Was that Gary Oldman and Demi Moore?
I haven't seen the film. That's Nathaniel Hawthorne, though.
I'll tell you what, though. We watched that in school. Holy shit. Boing. Like fucking crazy.
Okay, all right. Okay. 7th grade was when the cracks began to show. All started with the disappearance of Heinrich Einsam. Heinrich had been an exchange student from Germany, a pudgy kid with suede blonde hair and eyes the color of emeralds. I had known him, but only just barely. He had been in town for a couple of weeks. In those 2 weeks, the shifty-eyed kid with the messy hair had yet to make eye contact with me or anybody else. I could recognize it for what it was, an attempt to become invisible, to shrink himself down so small that the starving, gluttonous egos of burgeoning adults might overlook him. The trouble with shrinking yourself away from others, whatever scraps of your personhood remain visible, are left entirely up to interpretation. The stories started almost immediately. The tightness of his lips and constant pale shade of his skin twisted by rumor into some latent sign of wrongdoing. Heinrich's uncle worked for the Department of Transportation, specifically in the removal of roadkill. Kids at school would shout accusations at him, calling him bizarrely terrible names like Rotmouth and Street Eater. None of us were overly surprised to hear that he'd gone missing. Figured he'd probably just ran away. Search was exhaustive, with everybody combing through the Walmart in the center of town and broadening the search from there until we had covered nearly 6 miles of woodland. I was surprised, at the end of that day, to find myself in the unusually warm clearing. The afternoon heat of summer shrank away as the sun sank in the west. The warm air rose from beneath the leaves, caressing every part of me, driving the cool evening winds from my bones. The only sign of him was a scrap of his scalp snagged on a tree branch behind his uncle's house. They eventually arrested the uncle, but I got the sense that nobody felt very good about it, as if it were something they did just so they could say that they had done something. I'm a little ashamed to say I never really thought about him much after he disappeared. I moved on with my life as if nothing at all had happened, because from my perspective, nothing really had. Heinrich had kept himself as something distant, an oddity only to be observed. I never truly come to know him, and thus had never grown to feel any attachment. I was 23 years old before I even remembered that he existed. Coming home from college to visit my folks, I found the same shrinking tables I had left behind. It seemed as if every year gave cause for one less chair, whether it be death, feud, or simple logistical issues. It hurt in a way that sits just beneath the surface, an almost imperceptible, constant agony of loss poisoning the air. When the typical heated political discussion arose, I excused myself from the situation. Not due to a lack of interest, simply because I felt that whatever ideological victories might be scored wouldn't be worth the chance of another empty chair. The woods were as silent as a grave as I drudged past fallen logs. A small family of deer wandered across my path. I remember wondering what life might be like through their eyes. Many people hold animals to be base creatures devoid of real feeling, but I know that's not the case, at least for some. Several years prior, when I left for college, I had been driving down country roads on my way to the new school. Excitement and possibility danced through my head, the rhythmic joy of it all coming to a screeching halt. Ahead on the road, I could see a young fox laying near the median. There were no visible signs of injury, yet even so, it was immediately obvious the kid was dead. Its mother and siblings crowded around it, prodding gently with their noses, and I could hear through my open window the sounds of their gentle whining. It was as if I had found myself in the middle of some disastrously disheartening Disney movie. I don't know if the animals of Earth feel all the same things as you or I, but I know without question that they mourn just as we do. I followed the deer at a distance, all the while thinking of my own family and the family of foxes. I was so lost in my aimless, meandering grief that I didn't even notice when we entered the clearing. It was the same as it ever was. The images of the swaying trees heaving their heavy branches to and fro. The wind carried sweet, warm air to the tree line where it seemed to wrap around every inch of me. The change in temperature sudden enough that I jumped in slight surprise. A flood of memory broke loose in my mind, threatening to carry me away with the torrent of recollection. Coming here to cry after Sadie rejected my invitation to the dance, bringing my first girlfriend, Heather, to experience the warmth and tranquility which marked this place. I was wrenched back from my trip down memory lane by a sudden cacophony of panicked deer calls. I couldn't have looked away for more than a couple of seconds. The deer had somehow disappeared from the clearing, with the sound of their desperate cries now oozing up from beneath the leaf-littered ground. I don't know if it was down to the state of my own family or just a streak of naive caring that prompted me to march out and investigate. The idea of deciding not to intervene never even occurred to me. It just seemed obvious to me that I should help. Stomping across the ground, I became aware of faint groaning clunk, like wet wood under weight. The deer quieted beneath the thumping of my heavy boots until there was no sound at all. I knelt to the ground, clearing half-decayed leaves and revealing a wooden surface much the same. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was desperation to help the deer, or perhaps reckless abandon born of despair. Maybe even something so simple as the call of the void. I jumped. Once, twice, and with the third, the boards gave way. It's never easy to tell how long you were falling. Each moment stretches out before you, your mind running uselessly at top speed to find some way of avoiding harm. I slammed against a terrain both bumpy and sharp, a great clatter resounding all around me. The smell hit me first, 1,000 years of rot, coated in a thick sheen of freshly baked bread. My eyes adjusted slowly to the dim light, the hole where I had fallen through acting as the only window. I was in a pit. The The size of it was impossible to discern amid the crushing darkness, but the shape was easily surmised from the angle at which the walls were set. When finally I could see my fingers, I felt a rush of panicked horror boil throughout my being. The ground here was comprised entirely of bone. Discarded femurs and rib cages intertwined until they reached a point of resembling stability. I stood slowly, moving with careful steps across the shifting floor. A rogue vertebrae sent my feet flying out from under me, and I braced for the pain as my face careened towards the jagged surface. Instead of hard bone, I was met with the warmth of living tissue. Fresh, wet blood coated my cheek as I pulled away from the corpse of the father deer I had seen. I scrambled against the wall, struggling to keep my footing as the bones slid effortlessly across each other. My knuckles crashed against abandoned skulls and hooves as I slipped cartoonishly in the stinking darkness. I stared in raw, stunned terror as a tinkling rumble sounded from somewhere deep within the heap of rot, a harbinger of things unknown gliding through a sea of death. The ripple closed the space between us, sliding in seconds through 15 feet of near-solid bone matrices.
So this is just like a literal deer pit, like a death pit.
Pit of death, yeah, pit of death and blood and stuff. Stuff's come down here, died and decayed for a long time.
And this is a place that he's been before, that he's known.
This field, yes, but obviously he hasn't been down.
But he hasn't been to
pit.
this,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. It was boarded up for some reason. Somehow the deer got in there without there being an obvious opening. It stopped at my feet. For a moment all was still. Then a rattling shuffle began from below the surface. I listened as whatever it was grew closer, shivers of fear racking my body. I was shaking so violently that the bones had begun to displace themselves around me, leading me to sink slightly down into the pile. A rotted hand, all horrid blacks and greens with glimmers of stark white below, burst forth, and then another. Slowly, inexorably, the being extracted itself from the tangled mass of putrid, discarded flesh. Decaying viscera lay draped across his exposed skull. All the meat above his upper lip had been eaten away. His ears, pustulous craters, writhing with life as the insects living with him fled from his ear canal. The blackness of his empty eye sockets suddenly parted at their midline, as if phantom eyelids had opened to reveal the bloodshot, emerald eyes of Heinrich Einzim.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Almost popping out like I think it's Return of the Living Dead, Tarman, whatever.
Yeah.
I just imagine that's what he looks like, all droopy and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Skin rotting off of him. And the empty eye socket, it's parted. So, as if phantom eyelids had opened. So it's like the skull, but then there's a supernatural tone where like the eyes appear.
Well, I imagine it's like a deep set, and then in the deep set, it just like...
Oh, you see the green
it
show up
up,
in them.
yeah.
Yeah.
It opens
I think
up like
Tarman's a pretty good.
It's usually what I think of, yeah. Like zombie-esque kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I will say at the moment, it sounds like a fucking reverse... what's the like water that makes you youth forever?
The Fountain of Life?
It's like that kind of thing. Fountain of Youth. It's like kind of like a reverse version of that, it seems like. Almost like things that are like born from death come out of it. What is that? Like, is that like a Lazarus pit? What the fuck is that called again?
Well, the Lazarus pit is like, well, it's from Batman, but it's dead people are laid in it and resurrected.
That's what I mean, yeah, like that kind of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. Only in the Lazarus pit, they're made young.
Also, it seems too with the things boarded up so far, it almost seems like somebody was like, "Hey, don't go over there."
Hey, don't go into the Lazarus.
Almost
pit.
like a Pet Cemetery kind of meme,
yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that like
dead is bad. Yeah.
Like locals of whoever knows how long ago did that. Do you think Heinrich fell in, or do you think he died in the forest and that it took him there?
Well, there's that piece. They said a piece of his scalp was seen outside of his uncle's house. Maybe his uncle found him dead, and like, I know what can save him, and knew about the pit.
That, or unless something fucking bludgeoned him and dragged him back.
Yeah, could have. We don't know what the pit's for yet. If it's to serve something, or if it's just like a thing that happens.
Right.
Heinrich finished extruding his torso from within the pile. I wished desperately for my body to stop quaking. I wanted to disappear, to become as close to invisible as possible. That's a good line because it calls back to Heinrich in school, wanting to be invisible. He turned his gaze to me, his skull rolling limply to the side as he fixed me with a single, blazing green eye. His voice was a wet rasp, as if he were speaking through a wasp nest soaked in viscera.
I found someone beneath the bones. You should see her.
As he finished the sentence, he tried again to turn both eyes to me, leading his head to rotate around to the other side, his jaw hanging uselessly from weak, dry tendons mummified by decay. His torso was a writhing mess of maggots, with botfly larvae dotting his shoulders from end to end. His chest pulsed loudly with each ragged breath as the pungent air disturbed the insects nested in his lungs. Chittering sounds echoed through the chasm as Heinrich brought himself to loom over me, foul odor of rot overpowering as he seeped decomposition across my chest.
Come with me. Below the bones. You have a home here.
I lashed out with my boot, caving in a large section of his decrepit rib cage and setting swarms of insects to buzz through the closed space. I moved as quickly as I could to create distance, but it was impossible to keep track of him in the endless, buzzing storm. I could feel a million legs crawling across my skin, and I had to swat uselessly at the air to keep them from my eyes. I retched as a fly crawled briefly into one of my nostrils, imparting the stench of rot it carried. Heinrich let out a cry of terrible rage, causing another uproar of tiny wings within his chest. The way his agony warbled and wove itself through the wrathful echo of his kneeling wail caused my head to thrum with horrible pressure. I clapped my hands to my ears and scanned desperately for any possible way to get out. On the far side, near where I had fallen through, there was a ladder leading up to a small hatch. My clumsy, panicked feet betrayed me as I moved for the ladder, leaving me sprawled out on the shifting floor. From where I lay, feeling the infinite jagged edges of rot-soaked bones poking against my chest, I could see Heinrich emerging again.
You entered the pit. You belong here now. You belong to her now. Nothing of her sees the sky. You go below.
His voice stretched wildly between rage and reverence, filtering through meters of desiccated bone and echoing off the walls of the pit. He slid effortlessly through the bones, and I could hear the shifting rattle behind me as he breached the surface. He wobbled slightly, as if maintaining balance were a constant effort, his half-devoured skull lolling uselessly from side to side as he swayed. I scrambled like an animal, raking discarded femurs and abandoned forelimbs back past my head as I crawled desperately toward the ladder, shards scraping my face as they flew. He slammed down, splintering the tips of his fingers into tiny shards. He had fallen short. I didn't waste my chance. Wrenching myself upright, I ran for the exit. My heart dropped as the wet wood flexed beneath my weight. I made it up one rung, then another, before searing pain tore through my leg. From where he had fallen, Heinrich had dragged himself across the room. A chain of deer thoraxes lay behind him, a sinuous rope of shadowy darkness chaining them each to Heinrich's writhing form. He had dragged himself up and shoved his devastated fingers through my calf, in behind my shin. I panicked and tried to pull the leg away. The pain brought white-hot oblivion bleeding into the edges of my vision as my head swam, the muscles binding my calf to my shin stretching themselves against Heinrich's fingers, threatening to shear away completely. Hot yellow bile rolled from my throat as the pain threatened to drive me to unconsciousness. I was dragged back to reality by the feeling of a splinter slowly piercing my right thumb. The hand had fallen away from the ladder, dangling down behind me. There, beyond the tips of my fingers, I could see the gleam of terrible, hungry malice suspended in the cloying, fetid air. He used the fingers planted in my leg for support, sending waves of brutal agony tearing through me. He stretched and writhed until he had positioned each of his jaws around my index, middle, and ringed fingers. He chomped down, shearing each finger at the knuckle. I sucked the foul air into my lungs as he raised himself up for more, and then there was a horrible tearing sound. The weight of his form had been too much for his desiccated tendons to hold. His wrist had come unbound from his arm. The sudden shift in weight was too much for his tentative sense of balance. He toppled to the ground, casting bone and viscera across the room in a wide arc as he fell. I cried in desperation as I willed my battered body to climb. One rung, two more, and I had reached the hatch. I felt the slam of Heinrich's remaining hand against rung after rung as I pushed the hatch. Once.
It was useless to flee. She'll come for you. You must go down there below the bones.
Twice.
want to go. Not at first, but she has shown me things. She will show you as well.
Thrice. He clamped his jaws around the rubber of my boot. I yanked wildly, sending teeth careening from round the pit as my shoulder slammed against the hatch. Sunlight burst in, illuminating Heinrich's infested, decaying form tumbling down into the pit. He scrambled out into the afternoon air. The sun against my skin gave me a feeling that the nightmare was over. Even as disembodied fingers still wriggled in my calf, I carefully removed the hand, fingers curling themselves in an attempt to hook into my flesh as I pulled each one loose. I stumbled across a clearing, collapsed against a fallen tree. So that entire segment was really cool. There's a giant pile of bones, and he's still kept alive for some reason to serve whatever her is.
How many years has passed since this happened, since he's been missing?
Well, he was in middle school, right?
And now he's 23.
Yeah, so
at least 10 years.
More than, 10 years. 10 years, I'd
Yeah.
say. So it's been a decade, and he's been down there decaying, but still alive.
Well, it seems like whoever her is, it seems like it's using her memory, or it's using our protagonist's memory of Heinrich in this whole passing to manifest him again.
Oh, it could be. That's a good
something.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Heinrich's body did fall in there.
Oh, it did. But
Doesn't
I'm just saying that,
disappear,
I wonder how many victims there are. And it just seems like very convenient that it's like, oh, I know this kid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true. I see what you're saying. I wonder if people just come in this clearing and they're pulled under. And no, this actually
Seems like it.
This works too, because there's a bunch of kind of like random fields you'll come across in the Tennessee mountains. Like you come over the bow of a hill and it's like, hey, here's just a clear spot
like
for
a
some
little pasture
reason.
or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, or it was at one point, but now it just looks like grown up grass and flowers. And for some reason, no trees grow there.
Yep. You just fall down the pit.
Yeah,
when
it makes you
walk through
think. And
the
it
high
also,
grass.
like, Appalachia's got a ton of sinkholes in it where the mountains are so old. There's random times where, like, holes will just cave in. So it's kind of, this ties into that with, like, maybe one of those clearings is home to something like this, you know? So that's pretty cool. My eyes were heavy. The warmth of the sun was richly intoxicating, wrapping me in its embrace and begging me to be still. I looked down at my leg, my fingers. I was bleeding horribly, so I used my belt for a tourniquet on my leg and did my best to keep my hand above my head. I clenched off the belt, suddenly becoming aware of a dragging thump and an incoherent, wrathful voice. Heinrich had dragged himself from the pit and up into the clearing, the effort costing him his ragged arms, which lay flopping in piles of shredded rot ripped away from his torso. I also like how all the pieces of the body continue interacting even after they're detached from him. The remaining flesh of his face had been lost in the effort as well, leaving only his wild, verdant eyes to leer at me. He inched forward now by using his upper jaw to gain purchase in the earth. He was about 7 feet away when a set of ribs snagged on the edge of the hole, causing the strain to overcome the bonds of his vertebrae. His skull disconnected from his neck with a soft click, his eyes experiencing a decade of decay in an instant. It blistered and boiled away into a greasy, vaporous dust. The chain of torsos with Heinrich at its end wriggled twice before backsliding into the pit. That's cool. It's like a tentacle almost of like bones. The motion, openly deliberate, drove icy despair into my heart. I began to crawl away, looking back only once when I heard the heaving, ragged breath of a dying animal. The slam of a buggy paw drawing my eye back to the pit's edge. Claws longer than my ring finger protruded from gangrenous, fleshy stumps. Round, furry ears just barely peeking over the edge. The sound of wood splintering, the sight of that monstrous paw slipping off the edge were enough to set me sobbing as I dragged myself home. That's cool. It's like a living pit that's like beckoning for him up there. A neighbor found me a few miles down the road. I was covered in bites and stings, some of them incurred in the pit and others on the journey home. Dad was hysterical in the hospital, but Mom was there for me. She always had a way of setting herself aside when I needed her, even as she caressed my bandaged hand and petted my cheek. I could see in her eyes how badly she wanted to break down in tears, the mournful wailing of her heart prying desperately at the corners of her mouth. Eventually, when I was able to speak again, I told my story. You can guess how that went. It took a few weeks of begging before they'd even bothered to check the pit. When the sheriff finally made his way out there, he found Heinrich's battered skull sitting at the edge of a chasm. The empty pit stood 30 feet across and more than 60 feet deep. They had it backfilled before I left the hospital. He showed me pictures once. The thing I couldn't help but notice about those pictures, beyond how infinite the darkness seemed to grow, was how the hole banked off at the bottom. I couldn't help but shudder in thinking that something massive had tunneled its way out of the deer pit. Sometimes, late at night, the rumbling of passing cars starts to sound familiar in a way that makes my heart sink. Oh, that ending's awesome. It's like the giant, this like, a thing, like a pile of flesh like the thing, is tunneling under the mountains.
Yeah,
and,
well, it seems like something that's
around.
underneath. I keep picturing like almost like a giant worm or something,
Yeah.
or like some kind of
Yeah.
entity that's collecting bodies and like making itself larger. That's kind of how I picture whenever it's like, oh, the Heinrich's body collapsed, but then the rest of the thing fell through. To me, it was like Heinrich's body fell off, and then the worm kind of it went back in the.
And knowing now that it'll be seen, it just goes somewhere else. It goes to a different area.
What do you think the connection was with the connection between people that are like Heinrich trying to be not to be seen, and then we have a similar thing with our protagonist here with his own family of like not wanting to intrude or impose on certain things because he doesn't want people to whisk away, or he doesn't want people to go away, right? Whether through death or through feuds. It seems something very similar there with.
So with the death thing, I think going back to Pet Sematary, sometimes dead is better. Maybe it's like, well, I don't want to lose people. I don't want to that. It's like, well, if you hold on too long, what would that look like? And then the deer pit's a physical manifestation of that, where it's a giant growth where nothing can die in it.
That's what I also didn't know too. That's why I didn't know. It's like, yeah, no one's found that pit yet. I wonder if just like if it isn't coincidental that it's like, is there something that lulled him to it? Does it feed off people that are like have that kind of like?
That's a good point, because he was talking about like how he thought about his family, and then he thought of the foxes. He saw a fox die. There's this continuing theme that like death is bad, like he fears death or losing things. So he sees the deer and he follows them off. And it's almost like the deer, at least symbolically, lead him to the realization that maybe it's okay if things are dead. Maybe it's okay if some things aren't around forever, because if they are around forever, they just rot, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a different way of saying that, like almost like the temporariness of life, and also just like the change of time or something. There's something there. I'd have to process it more, but the ending had a lot of fun to it. The gross kind of body horror visuals and stuff. I mean, I always eat up, but I do think like showing the entity at the revealing the entity at the very end, and then just having this idea that it's like kind of burrowing and digging, and it almost seems like it's following him.
It was a great dripping of information, because when we first see it, it's like, oh, there's bones down here. And then Heinrich comes out, and it's like, oh, he's like a zombie. But then you see he's connected to everything, and it's all one flesh, and it's like, oh, this is all one thing. And then the tentacle and the paw, and then to realize this isn't just a pit, it moves. And I love that last line, because there's so many times you'll be hiking, like where my house is. I'll be hiking in the woods around my house, but the interstate's nearby. So while you're hiking, you can still hear the... like the gentle humming of rubber on the asphalt. But then... that idea that sometimes it's like, it sounds similar, but could be something else, something tunneling under. That's such a cool note. It ends on a high note.
It has remnants of like kind of, I guess what I was trying to say was like your past comes back to haunt you in a lot of weird ways. Just the idea that
It's almost like he felt guilty about Heinrich a little bit.
The
for
Heinrich
forgetting
thing
him
is
and
too
stuff,
convenient to where it feels like to me it regurgitated him,
because he did kind of talk in the beginning,
to lure in another body to the pit.
Yeah, he talks in the beginning like he was almost like he'd be embarrassed to be his friend, because everyone else called him. Oh, what was that? Hold on, that note. What? Rot mouth. Yeah. They made fun of him because his dad would clean up dead animals from the road, and then he becomes a part of this dead animal. Wait, was it his dad or his uncle who cleaned dead animals?
I think you said dad.
Okay. His dad.
You're trying to say his uncle killed him or something?
No, he didn't kill him. That if he died, he would know where to put the body, that the body can live forever. Because if he cleans up dead animals, maybe they just go into the pit, right? And maybe like there's some people in the mountains who
this
know
entity
of it.
living in the
That's a cool note. His dad cleaned up dead animals, and he's in the dead animal pit.
This entity is also very indicative of Heinrich himself and it's hiding in a pit. It's like not revealing. It doesn't want to reveal itself.
Yeah, and there's a girl at the base of it. That's an interesting.
Yeah, I kind of forgot that. That was kind of very like quick.
Yeah, and it's just what Heinrich says. So you could interpret that as kind of like he refers to the entity as her, whatever the Corvus is. Or maybe a woman started all this. Maybe this is some ancient being that's been in the mountains for centuries.
Or was the first victim.
Yeah, a woman was cursed with something, and then other bodies piled onto her, and she's at the core of it.
Yeah.
It gives you enough that you can tell there's purpose to it, but there's room to speculate on what stuff means. And those are always my favorite, like The Thing, right? Those are my favorite movie monsters, where you see enough that you're like, there's clearly a design here, but then it's like, but what does this mean? What would that mean? And you get to like wonder in your head with details and stuff. To me, that's like where the best horror is, where you can tell there's a blueprint, but we don't get to look right at it.
Yeah, well, it always seems to be the most effective. I think whenever people also come out, I will say that I have a huge respect for people who have an idea of what something is and they present it to be judged. I think sometimes I feel like people hide behind the ambiguity factor.
They can
a lot.
They can,
but I
in
will say
cases like this.
Yeah,
I think it serves the story.
Also,
'Cause I don't want there to be a part where he's like, I looked it up online and I found out about a woman in the 1700s. Just hearing her and just seeing like the flesh growth that tunnels, that's enough for me. That I'm
the animal motifs in both of these stories were a lot of fun. I like that we got the POV
of the animal
in almost both of them, of like a literal animal and then like this creature presenting itself to another person.
With the first story, because I do think it was an animal being hunted by people.
Yeah.
I like the idea there that it's like an animal afraid of people, and then it's like people afraid of an amalgamation of animals, like something great, like we're hunted by something greater. We just may not realize it yet. That's a really cool like furtherance idea, I think.
2 home runs from Tales from the Creeps.
2 home runs. As always, hey, I tell you what, the guys who watch this show, the guys and gals who watch this show, they can put a story together.
I will say just speaking to the Tales from the Creeps as well, if you're ever interested in writing a story and you actually want feedback on both of those stories, there were a lot of
there are
comments
a ton of people in the replies giving
that are
feedback,
actually engaging with the stories. I think
Yeah.
that if you're ever interested in writing, even if it's something that's just like you don't even want to be read, like I think it's just an idea of if you're trying to get into storytelling or if you're just trying to get into writing, I think it's a great opportunity because there is just such a fun little fan base there, and I hope that it keeps growing. But guys, that's our episode today. Thank you so much for watching on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Give us a nice rating there, and thank you to our beautiful patrons for supporting the channel. We do appreciate you. And until next time, we will see you in the next one. Stay creeped.
you